Have you ever wondered why some minds seem to operate on a completely different frequency? As if they see what others cannot, calculate what others overlook, and act with a clarity that feels almost supernatural. Machiavelli did not see intelligence as a gift, he saw it as a weapon, a mind sharpened not by education, but by observation, detachment, and the ability to turn chaos into clarity. The world calls it genius. Machiavelli called it control. There exists a mental mechanism, a hidden switch in the architecture of your mind that, once activated, allows you to perceive the world the way power itself perceives it, coldly, clearly and completely. This is not about IQ. This is not about being smarter than others. It is about seeing through the illusion, understanding people not as they present themselves, but as they truly are. And once you see that, you can no longer be manipulated, distracted, or misled. You enter a state that most will never reach, a form of consciousness that blends reason with instinct, calculation with intuition. Machiavelli once wrote that men are driven by two forces, love and fear. But what he never said directly, what he only implied through his writings, is that the most powerful mind is the one that can observe both without being consumed by either. This is the hack: detachment without indifference, perception without judgment, the capacity to read emotion without drowning in it. When you master this, you stop reacting and start predicting. You stop being a pawn in the game of others and begin designing the board itself. Imagine just for a moment living each day with a mind so calm that nothing disturbs you, yet so alert that nothing escapes you. Imagine being able to see patterns in people's behavior, not because you're paranoid, but because you understand how humans truly function. That is what Machiavelli understood centuries ago. The true intelligence is not in knowing more, but in perceiving more deeply. The world worships accumulation, more facts, more degrees, more data. But the Machiavellian mind seeks reduction, the art of simplifying reality until only the essence remains. In this video, you're not going to learn how to become a genius in the conventional sense. You're going to learn how to awaken the mind behind the genius, the silent engine that drives all great strategists, thinkers, and creators. Stay until the end, because what you'll discover is not a trick of intellect, but a shift in perception, a revelation that changes how you interpret reality itself. Before we go deeper, tell me in the comments, do you believe intelligence is something we're born with, or something we awaken through experience? Your answer will reveal which side of Machiavelli's mind you already live in. Now take a breath, clear your thoughts, and prepare to enter a world where the limits of your mind will no longer be decided by biology, but by awareness itself. And if you're ready to reclaim your perception, to see what others miss, then like this video, subscribe, and stay until the end. Because today, you're not just going to understand Machiavelli, you're going to become him. To understand the mind of Machiavelli, you must first understand the world that shaped him. Renaissance. Italy was not a world of peace and harmony. It was a living chessboard of betrayal, power, and shifting alliances. Princes plotted in secret rooms, families poisoned each other for thrones, and loyalty changed hands faster than gold. In that brutal landscape, Machiavelli realized a truth that still terrifies modern minds. To survive, intelligence must evolve beyond morality. While philosophers spoke of virtue and ideals, Machiavelli watched the real world, how men lied, flattered, deceived, and destroyed one another for influence. He saw that intelligence, when chained to emotion, becomes a weakness. But when freed from it, it becomes vision. He wrote The Prince not as a manual for cruelty, but as a mirror to expose how power truly works beneath the mask of ethics. Behind his cold realism was a shocking form of lucidity, a mind trained to see truth without illusion. Centuries later, neuroscientists would begin to confirm what Machiavelli intuited long before them, that human intelligence has less to do with memory or logic than with pattern recognition. The ability to detect hidden motives, emotional undercurrents, and subtle dynamics in a system. What we now call emotional intelligence. Machiavelli lived as survival instinct. His genius was not intellectual, it was psychological. He studied the battlefield of the human mind the way a general studies terrain, watching for weaknesses, pressure points, and blind spots. But what makes his philosophy so relevant today is not his understanding of rulers. It's his understanding of you. You live in a world no less deceptive than his. Social media has replaced royal courts, algorithms have replaced spies, and power now hides behind screens instead of thrones. Yet the same principles still rule. Perception is power. He who controls the narrative controls the mind. Machiavelli believed that true intelligence was the ability to see the invisible threads that bind people together, fear, desire, and the illusion of control, and that whoever could detach from these forces, observe them without being pulled into their gravity, would rise above the chaos. This detachment is not coldness, it is precision. The same precision that ancient monks used in meditation and that modern strategists use in negotiations. To see without reacting, to listen without being hypnotized, to analyze without absorbing the poison of the world. The tragedy of our age is that we confuse noise for knowledge. We drown in data yet starve for wisdom. The Machiavellian mind does the opposite. It filters the noise to hear the hidden signal beneath. The quiet pulse of truth that lies under every illusion. This is the forgotten art, the secret intelligence that no school teaches. It is not learned from books, but from silence, observation, and self-mastery. And in the next section, you will discover how to awaken this ancient power within yourself. How to rewire your perception so completely that no deception, no manipulation, and no illusion can touch you again. To awaken the kind of intelligence Machiavelli spoke of, you must first dismantle everything you think you know about thinking. The modern world has turned intelligence into a contest of accumulation. More information, more opinions, more mental clutter. But the Machiavellian mind operates in reverse. It does not collect, it cuts. It removes the unnecessary until only the essence of truth remains. Because intelligence is not volume, it is precision. Machiavelli believed that the greatest minds are not those who read the most, but those who observe the deepest. He said that a man who watches others without bias, without haste, and without emotional interference begins to see the invisible structure behind their words and actions. Most people never reach this level because their perception is fogged by emotion. Anger, fear, attachment, these are the parasites of clarity. They distort what you see and make you react to appearances instead of reality. The first step in this ancient brain hack, therefore, is emotional detachment. Not to become cold, but to become clear. The first principle, the discipline of silence. Silence is the forge of perception. Machiavelli knew that when you stop talking, you start noticing. In silence, you can detect micro-expressions, tonal shifts, inconsistencies in speech. You can hear what people mean, not what they say. The average person speaks to fill the void. The Machiavellian speaks only to create movement. He watches more than he speaks, listens more than he reacts. And because of that, he controls the rhythm of every interaction. Practice silence not as an act of withdrawal, but as a strategy. Let others reveal themselves in their rush to be heard. Every time you resist the urge to speak, your mind strengthens its muscles of observation. Within weeks, you'll start to see human behavior like a code, predictable, repeatable, and full of openings. That's the first layer of awakened intelligence, perception through silence. The second principle, the mirror of motives. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men never do anything good unless driven by necessity." To understand human behavior, you must decode motives, not words, not gestures, but the underlying hunger that moves people. Every human being is governed by one of three motives: the need to be loved, the need to be feared, or the need to be seen. Learn to identify which one dominates in the people around you. and you'll hold the invisible strings of power. You can practice this by quietly watching how people respond to approval, rejection, and indifference. The one who seeks love will crumble under silence. The one who seeks fear will overcompensate with aggression. The one who seeks recognition will perform, even when no one watches. Once you perceive these patterns, manipulation no longer touches you, because you're no longer part of the performance. You become the observer, the calm eye in the storm of emotion, the third principle, cognitive reversal. Here lies the true Machiavellian brain hack, the art of reversing your thinking. Ordinary minds react instinctively. Extraordinary minds reverse the frame. When someone offends you, don't ask, "Why did they do that to me?" Ask, "What made them need to act that way?" When the world seems unfair, don't say, "This is against me." Ask, "What structure benefits from my confusion?" Every emotion becomes a clue, every insult a data point. By reversing your mental lens, you turn pain into perception and adversity into advantage. The true genius of Machiavelli was not that he manipulated others. It was that he refused to be manipulated himself. He trained his mind to question every appearance, to look for the use behind every act. Nothing is random in human behavior. Every choice, every silence, every word serves a motive, even if the person is unaware of it. Learn to read that unconscious script, and you will know people better than they know themselves. The fourth principle, the power of indirection. Machiavelli understood a truth that modern psychology still struggles to accept. That direct confrontation rarely creates transformation. The mind resists what threatens its ego, but it can be redirected. That's why the greatest thinkers and strategists never attack ideas head-on. They plant seeds through indirection. When you speak indirectly, people lower their defenses. When you act unpredictably, they reveal their expectations. This is how Machiavelli gathered intelligence, not through force, but through subtle redirection. He used curiosity as his disguise and detachment as his armor. You can do the same in daily life. Ask questions instead of giving opinions. Suggest instead of demanding. Withdraw instead of defending. The more indirect your approach, the deeper your influence. This is not manipulation. It is mastery of flow. It's the same principle that nature uses. Water does not fight the rock. It shapes it over time. Genius is not a lightning strike of intellect. It is a quiet stream that reshapes reality through persistence and subtlety. The fifth principle, the cold fire of observation. There is a kind of fire that burns without smoke, the fire of pure attention. When your mind learns to observe without judgment, it begins to process information at a speed far beyond conscious thought. You begin to feel patterns before you can articulate them. This is intuition, the intelligence of silence. Machiavelli called it prudenza, the ability to foresee without effort. Every time you train your brain to remain calm in the face of chaos, you strengthen this inner mechanism. It's like tuning a hidden radar system that detects what others miss. You begin to notice that people always reveal themselves twice, first with their words, then with the tremor beneath them. And once you hear that tremor, you are no longer guessing. You're seeing. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you truly observed someone without projecting your own thoughts onto them? Without labeling, comparing, or anticipating? That's where your awakening begins. In that silent second of pure attention where the mind stops chasing and starts perceiving. The sixth principle. The economy of energy. Machiavelli saw the human mind as a kingdom of energy constantly at war with itself. Fear consuming courage, desire battling focus. His solution was what he called economia dell'anima, the economy of the soul. It means that a powerful mind does not waste its energy on things it cannot control. Every reaction is a leak in your system. Every argument you entertain, every offense you take, every unnecessary worry, all of it drains the energy that could be used for insight, to awaken intelligence beyond genius. You must conserve your inner energy like a king guards his treasury. Spend it only on what multiplies your awareness. Observe your thoughts the way a ruler watches his soldiers. Some serve you, others betray you. When you learn to withdraw energy from useless conflicts, your perception sharpens dramatically. You begin to sense things others overlook, the micro patterns, the emotional climates, the truth under the surface. The seventh principle, controlled madness. Every great mind walks a fine line between sanity and chaos. Machiavelli knew that creativity is born where order and madness meet. The brain hack is not to suppress chaos, it is to harness it. When your thoughts race, don't fight them. Watch where they lead. When your emotions surge, don't bury them. Decode what they reveal. Intelligence is not the absence of chaos, it's the mastery of it. This controlled madness creates innovation, intuition, and resilience. It's the spark that makes you unpredictable, original, and impossible to categorize. It's what Machiavelli admired in leaders, not their calmness, but their capacity to thrive in uncertainty, to think faster, deeper, and differently than anyone else. The eighth principle, the shadow of empathy. Machiavelli warned that excessive empathy blinds you. But he also understood that selective empathy empowers you. The Machiavellian mind uses empathy not to please, but to predict. When you can step into someone else's psychology without losing your center, you gain X-ray vision of their intentions. You no longer judge their actions emotionally, you understand them structurally. This is one of the most advanced forms of intelligence, cold empathy. It's what allows you to navigate manipulation, to see the weakness behind arrogance, the fear behind cruelty, and the desire behind generosity. You stop reacting to appearances and begin working with underlying forces. The ninth principle, the paradox of control. To truly control your mind, you must stop trying to control everything. Machiavelli observed that the most stable rulers were those who accepted uncertainty. They didn't demand perfect order, they managed disorder with poise. Your brain becomes powerful not when it eliminates chaos, but when it dances with it, when it adapts faster than reality changes. This paradox is the key to sustained intelligence. The mind that can't let go collapses under tension. The mind that flows evolves. Machiavelli's hack was adaptability, the ability to reshape mental frameworks as easily as others change clothes. He was never imprisoned by belief because he knew that every belief is temporary. The goal is not to be right, the goal is to stay awake. The 10th principle, the sacred neutrality, the highest form of intelligence. Machiavelli believed is neutrality, the capacity to hold two opposing ideas without collapsing into confusion. The weak mind needs certainty. The strong mind thrives in ambiguity. To stand in the middle of contradiction and remain calm, that's the mark of a truly awakened mind. When you no longer need things to be good or bad, right or wrong, success or failure, you begin to see reality as it is, fluid, interdependent, alive. From that perspective, nothing shocks you. Nothing manipulates you. You have reached the Machiavellian state of lucid detachment, not cold, not cruel, but clear. To awaken the mind Machiavelli envisioned, you must now venture deeper, beyond technique, beyond observation, into the psychological architecture of perception itself. The first stage taught you how to see. This stage will teach you how to interpret what you see. Because true intelligence is not about perception alone. It is about the translation of chaos into meaning. The eye gathers, but the mind decodes. Machiavelli believed that most people live in a permanent hypnosis, an emotional fog that clouds judgment. They see only through the lens of their desires, their fears, their past wounds. The awakened mind is different. It watches the world as a scientist studies nature, not with attachment, but with fascination. Every event, every word, every silence is data. Every failure is an experiment. The Machiavellian thinker lives in continuous analysis, but he does so without anxiety. That is what separates him from the obsessive. He observes not to control, but to understand. The 11th principle, awareness without attachment. One of Machiavelli's most radical insights was that attachment to ideas, people, or identities limits perception. When you are attached, you stop observing, you start defending, you begin filtering reality through what you want to be true. That is why most people never learn from experience. They are too busy protecting their illusions. The Machiavellian mind practices awareness without attachment. It looks at success without pride and at failure without shame. It sees people not as heroes or villains, but as complex organisms acting out their needs. When you stop labeling and start noticing, your intelligence expands naturally. You begin to see that what you once called good and evil are simply forces of nature, necessary, interdependent, and deeply human. The 12th principle, strategic vulnerability. Machiavelli's genius was that he understood vulnerability as a weapon. While others built walls to appear invincible, he learned that sometimes revealing weakness disarms an opponent faster than strength ever could. The modern world worships confidence, but forgets that overconfidence blinds. The truly intelligent mind knows when to appear open, when to lower its guard, not out of submission, but out of calculation. Try this in your next conflict. Instead of defending your position, admit uncertainty. Observe how the other person reacts. Their confidence will inflate, their mask will drop, and you will see their true motives. Strategic vulnerability is not about pretending, it's about using transparency as camouflage. You stop reacting emotionally and start shaping perception itself. The 13th principle. The triad of vision. Machiavelli divided perception into 3 levels. The eye that sees, the mind that interprets, and the soul that decides. Ordinary people use the first level, they see. The intelligent use the second, they interpret. The awakened use the third, they decide how to interpret. This is the key difference. You do not have to believe the first thought that arises in your mind. You can choose how to frame it, how to assign meaning, how to respond. This freedom of interpretation is the birth of real intelligence. It means no situation controls you anymore. A rejection becomes redirection. A loss becomes purification. An enemy becomes a teacher. Machiavelli understood this before neuroscience could name it: reframing. The brain that reframes faster wins faster. The 14th principle, the observer's shadow. Every observer carries a shadow, the bias of their own history. Machiavelli knew that even the most detached mind must eventually face itself. The danger of great intelligence is arrogance. The danger of deep insight is cynicism. Both are shadows of awareness. When you begin to see the world too clearly, it's easy to stop feeling. The hack is balance, to see darkness without becoming it. To maintain this balance, Machiavelli practiced what modern psychology calls cognitive disidentification. He could step outside his own mind, observe his thoughts as if they belonged to someone else, and correct them without self-hatred. This detachment from one's own narrative is the essence of power. You become the author, not the character. You write your reactions instead of being written by them. The 15th principle, the paradox of power. The more you seek control, the less you have it. Machiavelli observed that the strongest rulers often ruled the least. They simply created systems that ruled for them. The same applies to your mind. The moment you stop forcing it to be intelligent, it becomes intelligent. Insight flows only in a relaxed state. When you demand genius, you block it. When you observe in silence, it arrives. So let go of your need to dominate your own mind. Instead, watch it like a wild animal. Notice how it hunts for meaning, how it leaps to conclusions, how it fears uncertainty. The act of noticing is control. The moment you witness your thoughts without identification, your consciousness rises above them. You become the ruler of your inner state, not by force, but by presence. The 16th principle, The theater of emotion. Machiavelli said that rulers should treat emotions as actors on a stage, useful, but never real. Every emotion you feel is a message from your subconscious, not a command. Anger is the signal of violated boundaries. Fear is the signal of unknown territory. Sadness is the signal of attachment releasing. When you understand emotion as information, not identity, you gain freedom. This is the secret of emotional alchemy, transforming reaction into response. The Machiavellian mind does not suppress emotion, it translates it. When you can name what you feel without drowning in it, you begin to extract wisdom from pain. You start to notice that behind every emotional storm is a precise need, and behind every need is a lesson in self-mastery. The 17th principle, the law of delay patience, Machiavelli said, is the disguise of intelligence. The mediocre mind rushes to act. The strategic mind waits until the field reveals itself. This is not procrastination, it is psychological timing. Every human interaction, every decision has an optimal moment. The brain that learns to wait reads those invisible rhythms. You can train this by pausing before reacting. When someone provokes you, don't respond immediately. Observe. Count to 10 if you must. In that small silence, your primitive brain calms and your higher mind activates. That is where real decisions come from. Those few seconds are the difference between impulse and strategy, between emotion and evolution. The 18th principle, controlled obsession. Machiavelli knew that focus is the sharpest weapon of intelligence. But uncontrolled focus becomes fixation. The secret is controlled obsession, the ability to channel your attention entirely into a pursuit while maintaining inner distance. To dive deep without drowning. Choose one subject, one goal, one craft, and study it until the invisible patterns reveal themselves. This is how the great thinkers operated. Da Vinci with anatomy, Newton with light, Machiavelli with power. They all reached a point where thought dissolved into direct knowing, where intellect became intuition. That's the moment when you stop analyzing reality and start communing with it. But here's the paradox. Obsession purifies you only if you remain free from outcome. The moment you attach your worth to success, the flow stops. True mastery comes from devotion, not desperation. The 19th principle, the invisible war inside. Every human mind, two forces are constantly fighting. The higher intelligence that observes and the lower impulses that react. Machiavelli personified this war as the battle between the prince and the mob within. The prince represents reason, patience, foresight. The mob represents fear, pride, and hunger. Most people are ruled by the mob. The few who awaken learn to rule it. This is the essence of the brain hack, to shift your seat of identity from the mob to the prince. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose clarity over chaos, you strengthen the throne of awareness. One day, the mob still screams, but its noise no longer moves you. You hear it as part of the system, not as your voice. That is when you become untouchable. The 20th principle, the quiet revolution. Machiavelli believed revolutions did not begin in streets, they began in minds. The greatest transformation happens not when you change your environment, but when you change your perception of it. The moment you realize that reality is subjective, that meaning is constructed, that emotion is programmable, you become free. This inner revolution is silent but unstoppable. It changes how you work, love, and think. It removes the need for validation and replaces it with clarity. You begin to see how others are enslaved by external rewards, praise, attention, status, while you move in stillness, guided by insight alone. The brain that reaches this level doesn't seek approval, it seeks accuracy. Now pause again and reflect. What are you still attached to that clouds your intelligence? What beliefs, fears, or desires keep you from seeing things as they are? The Machiavellian mind is ruthless only toward one thing: illusion. Everything else is forgiven, understood, integrated. After these 20 layers of awakening, your mind begins to operate on a new frequency. You no longer consume information, you transmute it. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer chase intelligence, you embody it. Machiavelli's hack was not a trick for power over others. It was a technique for sovereignty over yourself. Before we enter the next chapter, the application, I invite you to comment this line below. My mind sees clearly. Nothing can deceive me anymore. Let that be your declaration, your initiation into the realm of pure perception. Now that you've uncovered the hidden architecture of perception, it's time to make this intelligence tangible, to bring it from the abstract world of ideas into the living rhythm of your daily life. Because philosophy means nothing until it changes the way you breathe, think, and act. The true Machiavellian mind does not live in books. It lives in decisions, small, consistent, deliberate acts of awareness. This is where theory becomes transformation. So let us begin with a simple truth. Your mind is not what you think it is. It is not a container filled with knowledge. It is a lens. Every moment of your life is filtered through that lens, colored by your emotional state, your expectations, your memory. To awaken higher intelligence, you must polish that lens daily until it reflects reality as clearly as possible. That's what the following practices are designed to do, not to make you smarter, but to make you aware. The first practice, the hour of observation. Every day, set aside one silent hour, not for meditation, not for scrolling, not for thinking, but for watching. Watch the world around you. Notice how people move, how they speak, how they avoid silence. Watch yourself too, how your thoughts wander, what irritates you, what excites you. This hour is your training ground. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. The modern mind is addicted to distraction. Silence feels like emptiness, but as days pass, your perception will sharpen. You'll begin to notice what others miss, the micro-tensions in conversations, the unspoken emotions behind laughter, the subtle cues that predict behavior. This is how Machiavelli trained his mind in Florence. By watching politicians, servants, soldiers, and lovers, studying not what they said, but why they said it. Observation turns ordinary life into a classroom of power. The second practice, the detachment ritual. Every night before you sleep, close your eyes and replay your day as if it belonged to someone else. Observe every event from a third-person view, the interactions, the emotions, the choices. Don't judge, don't justify, just watch. You'll notice how differently you behave when seen without bias. You'll begin to detect the hidden patterns, where you give away energy, where you seek approval, where you react instead of respond. Machiavelli would have called this governance of the self. By reviewing your day, you become your own ruler, holding court with your thoughts and emotions. Within a few weeks, your awareness of cause and effect will multiply. You'll no longer say, I don't know why this happened. You'll see why. The third practice, the law of minimal words. Powerful minds do not waste words. They understand that speech dilutes energy and silence condenses it. Starting tomorrow, speak 30% less. Cut every unnecessary explanation, every filler word, every impulsive reaction. Train yourself to speak only when your words have weight. At first, this discipline will feel strange, as if you're withholding a part of yourself. But soon, something remarkable happens. Your presence deepens. People start to lean in when you speak. Your silence becomes magnetic. And internally, your thoughts become more precise, your focus sharper. Machiavelli knew that influence begins not with talk, but with restraint. The fourth practice, the 5-second rule of awareness. Every decision, every reaction, every word, pause for 5 seconds before it escapes your control. This micro moment creates a gap between stimulus and response, between instinct and consciousness. In that gap lies your freedom. Most people live like mirrors. They reflect whatever the world throws at them. The Machiavellian mind acts like a prism. It refracts, bends, transforms. Those 5 seconds are your evolution in motion. It's the rewiring of a brain that no longer reacts blindly, but observes before acting. The more you practice it, the slower time feels, and the faster your clarity grows. The fifth practice, the map of motives. Carry a small notebook or keep a note on your phone. Every time someone around you behaves strangely, sudden anger, guilt, flattery, distance, write down what happened and why you think it happened. Then over time, look for patterns. You'll discover that motives repeat like seasons. Some people act from fear, others from pride, others from emptiness. This exercise turns life into a psychological map. Soon, you'll walk into a room and instantly sense which emotion dominates. Who is seeking power? Who is avoiding exposure? Who is hiding pain? Machiavelli saw this as the geography of the soul. The better your map, the less you get lost in other people's storms. Now let me ask you, do you really see the people around you, or just your reflection in them? Comment your answer below. Awareness begins when honesty does. The sixth practice, the art of strategic emotion. Emotions are energy, and energy can be shaped. The Machiavellian hack is not to suppress emotion, but to allocate it. Choose which emotions deserve expression and which deserve silence. Anger can fuel strategy if purified of ego. Sadness can deepen empathy if freed from attachment. Fear can sharpen intuition if guided by awareness. Try this. When an emotion rises, name it, breathe deeply, and visualize it as a current of energy. Ask yourself, where can I direct this energy most usefully? Can it build something? Can it reveal something? This transforms your inner chaos into momentum. Over time, your emotions stop ruling you. They start serving you. The seventh practice, the mirror of the enemy. Find someone who irritates you. Not a stranger, but someone close enough to trigger you. Every time you feel emotional turbulence toward them, instead of resisting, analyze. Ask yourself, what in me reacts to them? What wound, what insecurity, what desire are they mirroring? Machiavelli knew that enemies are the greatest teachers of self-mastery. They show us the limits of our control. When you can observe conflict without losing composure, your consciousness doubles in strength. You evolve from reacting to designing your reactions. The enemy becomes your instrument of refinement. The eighth practice, the morning of clarity. Each morning, before speaking to anyone or touching your phone, sit in silence for 10 minutes and ask yourself 3 questions. What emotion dominates me today? What single thing truly matters today? What is illusion today? Write your answers quickly, instinctively, without thinking. This small ritual trains your mind to separate signal from noise before the day begins. It aligns your perception with purpose. Machiavelli began his mornings reading and reflecting in solitude, not to escape the world, but to dominate it with preparation. You are doing the same, training your mind to lead your reality instead of chasing it. The ninth practice, the law of psychological distance. Machiavelli taught that one should never be too close to what they wish to understand. Distance creates perspective. If you want to see your life clearly, step back from it. Take a walk without music. Travel alone. Spend an entire day without speaking. The silence will show you the architecture of your own mind. What thoughts repeat, what desires echo, what illusions cling. The moment you create distance, patterns appear. What once felt confusing becomes simple. What once felt urgent becomes irrelevant. That's the paradox of clarity. It appears only when you stop reaching for it. The 10th practice, the circle of 12. Choose 12 moments of your day. 12 opportunities to practice pure presence. It can be when you drink water, open a door, check your phone, greet someone, or sit in silence. Each time, stop for 3 seconds, breathe, and remind yourself, I am observing life, not lost in it. This practice rewires your brain. It strengthens the neural circuits responsible for metacognition, the awareness of awareness itself. In a few weeks, you'll feel an expansion, as if your mind watches itself in real time. This is the awakening Machiavelli hinted at, the fusion of thought and observer, intellect and consciousness. The 11th practice, the sacred rewrite at least once a week. Rewrite a painful event in your life, not to falsify it, but to extract its wisdom. Ask, what did this teach me about power, perception, and control? When you reframe pain into instruction, trauma becomes strategy. The Machiavellian mind never suffers twice from the same wound. It transforms memory into method. This ritual strengthens your psychological immunity. It prevents you from repeating emotional loops. Instead of saying, this hurt me, you'll say, this upgraded me. The pain remains, but it becomes fuel for clarity. The 12th practice, the ritual of selective ignorance. To protect your intelligence, you must guard your mental diet. Every piece of information you consume either sharpens or dulls your mind. Machiavelli would warn you, not all knowledge liberates, some enslaves, so create filters. Limit exposure to gossip, outrage, and noise. Fill your consciousness only with what refines your thought. Philosophy, psychology, history, silence. The less junk you feed your brain, the more luminous your perception becomes. Ignorance, when chosen consciously, becomes wisdom. The 13th practice, the law of invisible power. In every room, people compete for attention. The loudest often appear dominant, but Machiavelli saw that real power is invisible. The one who speaks little, who moves calmly, who observes without showing emotion, that person holds the hidden authority. Practice this. When you enter a conversation, don't rush to speak. Observe. When you do speak, lower your tone slightly, slow your pace. This quiet authority will rewire how people respond to you. You'll begin to notice it. Eyes turn toward you. Silence grows when you speak, even without trying. That is the Machiavellian aura. Power without display, intelligence without explanation. The 14th practice, the inner council. Every night before sleep, imagine an inner round table. Around it sit your inner voices, logic, fear, intuition, memory, desire. Let them speak one by one. Listen without judgment. Then, as Machiavelli would advise his prince, make a final decision as the ruler, not the subject, of your mind. This simple visualization strengthens executive control in your brain. It teaches you to recognize the difference between impulses and insights. Over time, you'll notice that your decisions become cleaner, your energy steadier, and your sense of self unshakable. The 15th practice, the art of invisible confidence. Machiavelli's greatest leaders never bragged. Their strength was silent, their confidence invisible. True intelligence doesn't announce itself, it emanates. Begin practicing invisible confidence today. Walk slower, make deliberate movements, hold longer eye contact, and listen fully before answering. When you stop proving yourself, others start feeling your presence. This reversal of energy creates gravity. People trust those who don't seek validation. The mind that no longer needs approval is free, and freedom is the highest form of intelligence. These 15 applications are the modern embodiment of Machiavelli's philosophy. They are not meant to make you superior. They are meant to make you lucid. You'll notice that as you apply them, your relationships will shift. Conversations will feel slower. The world will appear sharper. People will sense that something about you has changed. A calm that unnerves, a silence that commands, an attention that disarms. That is the quiet proof that the awakening has begun. Now that you've walked through the labyrinth of perception, silence, and awareness, understand this. The Machiavellian mind is not about deceit, nor cruelty, nor manipulation. It is about lucidity. It is about walking through a world built on illusion and remaining unblinded. Most people live as prisoners of reaction, trapped inside emotional patterns that repeat endlessly. But the one who awakens the mind that Machiavelli described becomes something else entirely, a being who does not just think, but sees. Machiavelli never intended his philosophy to serve tyrants. He wrote for the few who would dare to lead themselves. His genius was not in cunning politics, but in revealing how human nature operates when stripped of masks. To him, every kingdom was merely a mirror of the mind, filled with alliances, betrayals, ambitions, and fears. To govern the world, you must first govern this inner kingdom. Every thought, every impulse, every fear must kneel before awareness. You've learned the art of emotional detachment, the power of silence, the ability to read motives, the economy of mental energy, and the paradox of control. But now comes the real test, integration. Because the value of wisdom is measured not by how well you can recite it, but by how calmly you can live it. The goal is not to be Machiavellian in appearance, but in consciousness. To embody clarity without arrogance, precision without rigidity, detachment without apathy. Let us reflect on what this truly means. When you look at the world with a calm, detached mind, manipulation loses its power. You begin to see politics in everyday life, in offices, families, friendships, and even within yourself. You start to notice how fear drives decisions, how ego distorts truth, how illusion feeds suffering. And then something changes. You no longer fight shadows. You study them. You no longer argue with ignorance. You understand its roots. And in that understanding, you transcend it. This is not coldness. This is clarity. The fire that burns cleanly without smoke. The awareness that looks at chaos and smiles, knowing that chaos is only the raw material of creation. The modern world is filled with noise, opinions, outrage, endless comparison. Everyone wants to be seen. Few want to see. But those who master perception possess an invisible power. They influence without forcing, lead without shouting, and think without being told how to think. Machiavelli would tell you, he who sees first rules first. But ruling in this sense does not mean dominating others. It means ruling yourself. The one who sees through lies, both societal and personal, becomes impossible to enslave. When you no longer react to the manipulations of others, you stop feeding their power. When you stop chasing validation, you stop leaking energy. When you stop believing everything you feel, you stop being dragged by emotion. You stand in stillness while the world trembles. This is the higher state of intelligence Machiavelli hinted at. Not genius, but awareness. Not intellect, but insight. The kind of mind that perceives reality like a grand chessboard, yet plays with serenity, knowing that every move, win or lose, reveals more about the game itself. The true brain hack is not hidden in neuroscience or algorithms. It lies in reclaiming your attention. The most valuable currency of our age is not gold, not data, but focus. Whoever controls your attention controls your mind. Machiavelli's mind refused to be owned. He studied power, not to serve it, but to understand it, to stay awake when others slept. And that's what you must do. Awaken, observe, refuse to be hypnotized by appearances, because once your awareness expands, it cannot shrink again. You'll start to see the world differently, conversations, headlines, relationships, even your own inner dialogue. You'll see manipulation where others see entertainment. You'll detect patterns where others see coincidence, and you'll sense truth where others see confusion. That's when you'll know you've crossed the threshold, when ignorance no longer satisfies you and truth no longer frightens you. Remember, awakening intelligence is not about superiority. It is about responsibility. The clearer your mind becomes, the heavier the weight of awareness. You begin to feel the pulse of humanity's collective confusion, its fears, its blindness. But you will also feel compassion. Not sentimental compassion, but a quiet, stable compassion that comes from understanding how lost most minds are. And then you'll realize the paradox. The more you detach, the more you truly care. Machiavelli's hidden message was never manipulate the world. It was master your perception. The one who sees clearly does not need to manipulate, because clarity itself is influence. It shapes energy, it shapes behavior, it shapes destiny. So what happens when this intelligence fully awakens within you? You become a mirror for others. Your calm presence disarms chaos. Your silence speaks louder than words. Your focus cuts through noise. People may not understand why they feel drawn to you, but they will feel it. The magnetic pull of someone who sees. This is the quiet revolution Machiavelli envisioned. Not armies conquering nations, but awakened individuals conquering themselves. A world where intelligence is not measured by information, but by inner stillness. Where wisdom is not loud but luminous. Now take a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine your mind as a vast, silent sea. Thoughts rise and fall like waves, but beneath them, the depth remains unmoved. That depth, that stillness, is your true intelligence. It does not need recognition. It does not seek victory. It simply observes, learns, and guides. That is the state Machiavelli reached through observation, strategy, and solitude. And you can reach it too, not by reading more, but by seeing more, by living every moment as an experiment in consciousness. Before you leave this video, write this in the comments as a personal vow. I do not chase intelligence, I awaken it. Because what you are awakening is not knowledge, but presence. If this message resonated with you, like this video, subscribe and share it. Not for the algorithm, but because more minds must awaken. More people must learn to see, to think, to observe, to understand. The world doesn't need more geniuses. It needs more awareness. You are now one of the few who can perceive beyond illusion. Guard this awareness like a flame in the wind. Feed it with silence. Protect it with focus. And let it guide you toward a life of precision, clarity, and quiet power. Machiavelli once said, "There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others." He wasn't talking about armies. He was talking about the war within. You can't avoid the conflict of the mind. But if you face it consciously, the victory will be permanent. The war ends when perception becomes peace. So go now. Live with your eyes open, your words measured, your silence sacred. Let your mind be the calm observer in a world addicted to noise. Because when you master your perception, you master everything. And remember, true intelligence does not shine, it sees.